Hey guys, this time for your viewing pleasure, we have a early 90s vintage Cub Cadet 1330 riding mower. It's got a 12.5 horse Kohler in it. It's hydrostatic, built like a tank, built to last, runs good, but doesn't move. So I got to get into that Transaxle and find out what's going on in there. Could be something simple, could be something difficult, I don't know yet. We got to tear into it and have a look. So I'm going to start with a few basics. I'm going to check the fluid level and make sure that the belts and everything are good on it. But let's tear in and see what comes of it. Alright, so I think where I'm going to start is I'm going to pull those fenders off. I'm going to take the seat out and the back fenders. We'll get all that taken off. That way we can actually get an eyeball on what's going on under there. We can see all the belts. We can see everything. Down where you swing your leg over to get through, that plate comes up, so that's just 2 screws. I'll pop that out and get an eyeball on everything and see what's going on. I've done a little bit of research online. The Transaxle might be junk. I don't know. There's other things that can happen. This has an automatic brake, so if you push the brake down, it automatically locks down. And if you try and move the hydrostatic lever from there, you can actually bend stuff. So I really don't know what's going on with it. I'm hoping we can get it running, or well, I'm hoping we can get it moving because it does run fine. This is an excellent lawnmower, built to last. These things are really built well. So it's going to be a fast forward thing because it's a little tedious. Lots of nuts and bolts everywhere. I'll be on every side of the machine, and you're not going to see anything anyway. So we're going to fast forward it. But I'll grab some tools and jump in and see what happens. Okay, let's get you guys in there for a little bit of a closer look. I come off relatively easy. Two bolts there under the fenders. 2 bolts over there under the fenders. 4 bolts holding the seat hinges on. And the 2 bolts in the spring. All these nuts have lock washers on them. Everything is standard bolts, so it's either was built with standard bolts or they've been replaced. But anyway, I don't know. Let's see what we can see. So there's a cooling fan. That fan's in one piece. Usually they get brittle and break off. That fan is in one piece. That's all good. The belt is worn, but it's intact. It's here. It is worn. This here is a reservoir for the fluid. I did put some in. It hasn't gone down. But we can see the linkage here. You can't, I don't know if you can't see it. Let me just see if you can see it when we get there. So here's the hydrostatic lever. It's in neutral right now. But if you put it in drive, move it forward, when you step on the brake pedal, it automatically, through the linkage, will automatically put it into neutral. So it'll automatically stop it. There is linkage moving. Whether it's moving the proper amount, I don't know. I don't know if it's seized in the Transaxle or what the story is. There's another lever on the side there. I've never worked on one of these Transaxles before, so looks like our brake over there. Okay. This lever here is the release. So hydrostatic. Okay, now you can see. Hydrostatic, if you want to push it without it running, you have to release basically put the pump in bypass. On some tractors, the newer modern ones, it's a lever, it's a little rod at the back of the tractor that you would pull out and hook down, and it will stay in the unlocked position. This one here is a little lever, but it's a momentary. As soon as you let it go, it comes back to locked in. So it makes it a pain in the butt to try and push it by yourself. I had to put a pair of vice grips on it to hold it down. But what it is when you pull the lever forward into the release position, there's a button that pushes in on the transaxle. It might just be that it's not coming out far enough. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas around first before I start tearing things apart. I'm going to try that first, but I'm going to have to lift the tractor up to do it, because I'm going to have to get underneath there and have a look at stuff. There's brackets and bracing. You can't even see it. It's up underneath. And we'll see. It might be that. I might have to tear the transaxle apart. I don't know. I don't know. If the tractor had sat for a while and somebody pushed this lever to move it and then released it, maybe the button stuck in. I don't know. But I got to get it lifted up on a couple of jack stands, axle stands underneath the axles, and see what happens. Actually, what I might do first is get it up on jack stands and see if the wheels try to move without any resistance. Yeah, I think I'll do that first. That's easy enough. Alright, so I checked a few things up and down and all around, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this bracket out. I'm going to pull the fan off. Well, first I'm going to pull the belt off, but pull the fan off, pull the pulley off, and see if there's a key between that pulley and the transaxle. Because the differential is actually working, so it's not like the differential is stripped. So the gears I'm thinking are going to be okay, but it could just be that something stupid like a key. If a key is sheared, then that pulley is not going to spin the pump, which makes the pressure to run the hydrostatic. So I'll pull the belt off and this bracket, see what happens. I think we got a starter relay that's on its way out, because even with that monster battery over there, it was cranking slow. So I'll get that stuff pulled off, get you in for a closer look and see what happens. Wah, wah, wah. That didn't fix anything. Took the bolt out, took the fan off, got the belt slid off. Oh, and then I put it back together. It doesn't matter anyway. Got the pulley off, and I checked. The keyway is there. It's working. The shaft is inputting into the pump, but I got nothing coming out of the pump. Oy vey. It could be a few different things. I'm going to have to tear the axle out. And for fear of this video on this tractor becoming a 87 part series, I'm not going to show everything. I'll get the transaxle out and put it on a bench or whatever and go from there, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got to get it down and see what's going on. Still got to play with the release button. That might do that. So before I start ripping and shredding, I'm going to try the release button and see from there. But it's got a screeching noise inside the transaxle, so it's not looking good. Might be a teardown and exploratory surgery. Stand by, we'll get to it. What the heck? You turn your back for 2 seconds and look what happens. Well, I've got the deck off because I wanted to access that little release button, and I accessed the release button and it didn't do a damn thing. So out it comes. Here's where we're at. Transaxle on a bench. Now I've already had, well, let's get you a little more stable there. Get your sea legs. There you go. So I've already had this pulley off. This is a homemade device up here to hold the, yeah, I don't know. I've already had the pulley off, but the belt spins this, shaft goes down. I'm going to take these 3 bolts out. We're going to start simple. as simple as I can. Take the 3 bolts out and see what's underneath. Just see what it looks like in there. And go from there. So I'm going to pop this back off again. Impact gun gets that off, no problem. And then we can access the bolts easier and we can see what's going on in there. So, let's get the Impacto gun. Noise alert. Little fancy homemade nut. Get your close up of that when I get the gun put away. So it's 2 nuts with a washer welded in between. It's a coupler. Holds this pulley down, and then a bolt goes through here to hold the fan on. Nice big thick washer. Wiggle this pulley off of here. Come on, you. You've already been off once today. Wiggle. Wiggle. Here it comes. Come on now. Getting Transaxle out actually wasn't that hard. It's on the back there's a U-bolt on each side, holds it to the body, and at the front there's a bracket, which I unbolted, but I did find that it's actually broken. So the black part, are you looking what I'm looking at? The black part here is the mount for this. The yellow part is supposed to stay on the tractor. And it didn't. So I'll have to weld that back up. If we get that far. Never know. This whole thing might go to the boneyard. I'm not putting thousands of dollars into it. So. Alright. Now I'm going to get these bolts out of here. So any kind of disasters underneath there. They look like 3/8. They are 3/8. Three little bolts. Let's see. I'm going in blind. I have no idea how this works. So there's our input gear. I see one gear here. Well, that's there. Grease is pretty dried up. Get you a shot of the inside of that in a second. Well, that's definitely spinning. So the shaft is spinning the gear on this end, so that's a good start. Let's get you a little closer here. Light on. Where are you looking? Okay, so that goes down inside there and spins this gear. There's another set of gears over here. I'm thinking that's a shift collar. Get you backed up a little bit. I'm going to move the shift arm underneath there and see if that moves back and forth. I'm not, like I said, I don't know how these things work. We're all just figuring it out as we go. So the shift arm is not moving that inside, that inner gear at all. So this is working. There's got to be a way to hook that shaft up with a hydraulic pump. And that shaft goes this way. So there's got to be a coupler or something in between there that's going to hold it together. So it looks like we're taking all these bolts off. Maybe. First thing, I'm going to flip it around and we'll take the pump off. It's a few bolts that holds the pump on, so we'll flip it over. We'll just slide the pump away from the transaxle. So this is more your mechanical gears in here, and that's your pump on this side. So let's turn it around. And it looks like, say, 1, 2. Okay. Well, there's got to be more than 2, so there might be bolts from the inside of the case. 1, This one too. 1, 2, 3. Well, let's pull those 3 out and see what happens. Hope for the best. Let me get some tools. Okay, so I pulled that plug out, flipped it upside down, drained all the horrible black crap out of there. There was a through bolt went through everything here and here and held this bracket together. So we got those out of the way. 2 more. 1 here. Nice long bolts. 1 there. 1 here. And then I don't know what's going to happen. We'll get a mallet and see if we can get that to knock free. I'm seeing a couple of big bosses. Well, one here. I'm not sure if there's anything inside this case that's holding it together. So, well, it looks like it's coming apart. Hopefully stuff doesn't go all over the floor. That's just a locating dowel. Looks like. There we go. Oh, off she goes. There's a hydraulic pump. The drives are in place. It's not a good sign. Little spline drives here. One on each. One here and one there. I don't know. I don't know what they do. Found it. Found the problem. Alright, good. At least we found the problem. We got a rack here. We'll get this out of the way. I'll show you what I'm looking at. Okay. So, come on, you got the cord tied around your leg there. You're going to trip. Careful. Okay, so this is hydraulic pump. The pulley with the belt. Look up. I'm up here. Excuse me, sir. I'm up here. Pulley's here. The belt drives it. Turns that shaft that we looked at earlier. You see this? That's called a coupler. It's 3 prongs. You see it spinning there? It down. It meshes with this one here. This one, it's got pressure, like it's got torque, like it's got resistance. It does turn, but it has resistance. This one here, I'm not concerned about. This one here, I'm not really concerned about anyways, because that's not our issue. Just for a second, we'll get the hydraulic pump out of the way. Gently now, gently throw it on the floor. And as I'm turning, I'll turn the input gear, and you can see that coupler turning. Now watch. It's stripped out. That coupler is stripped on the shaft. So the pulley is turning the shaft is turning, this coupler is not. I'm not even sure how they come out. I'm going to try a pair of pliers and give her a wiggle. It might just slide off the splines. There we go. Off she comes. Off she comes. Splines are gone. You can see where they used to be. There's a hint of where they used to be. But splines are gone. The shaft. Well, it's still got splines on the shaft. This is going to be like a sacrificial part. This should be softer than the shaft. So if something happens, these couplers give out before it destroys the shaft. So, well, now I guess I'm on the hunt for another coupler. What I'm going to do is, I think this one's fine. Yeah, this one's nice and tight. So I'm going to pull this one off if I can easily. Yeah, slides right off. Oh, actually looks new. It's probably been replaced once. Let's see if we can get it on that shaft and see what happens. So I'm going to hold or turn or do something here. Let me get a screwdriver down in there. Some type of jamming device so the gear can't turn, the input gear. Let's see if I can turn this. If I can turn this, it means the shaft is stripped too. Come on, hold. There we go. No, well, the shaft appears to be good, so replacing that coupler should make this tractor move again. That's good. I was I was a little concerned because I really want this tractor to go. So that's that. Nice. I'm sure that's not exactly the where I took it off from, and I'm sure it's going to give me grief when I try and put it together. But until then, we'll figure it out later. But yeah, off to the interweb to find me a new coupler. Alright, new parts. They were a whopping $9 each. Instead of just replacing the stripped one, I'm going to replace both because there's a little bit of wear where they contact, so I think we can splurge and put a $9 part on the other side too. Thinking about it afterwards, I probably should have just done them all, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm just going to clean that surface up just a little bit. Just get it flat so it doesn't hang up on anything, cause me grief. So I jumped online to find out what oil I should actually be putting in this thing. And you'd swear I was looking at Harley Davidson forums with the whole what oil is best argument. It never ends, oil arguments. So I'm not going to recommend anything. Because I don't know. I don't know for sure. I have no experience to base a recommendation on. However, some people say high trans, some people say this, some people say that. Get it from the Cub Cadet dealer. But what I did instead was I went to the manufacturer's website for this Transaxle. It is Hydro Gear is a company that made this Transaxle. I punched in my model number, and their recommendations is 20W50 engine oil with the SJ or JASO spec, which is motorcycle oil. Motorcycle oil has less additive packs than standard car oil. That's what you would use in a Japanese motorcycle. So that's what I'm going to use. Again, I'm not recommending anything. That's what I'm using. That's what the Hydro Gear said in their manual for the service manual for this Transaxle. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to try and clean most of the old grass and stuff off of it too, because that'll help keep it cool. Heat is a killer of these things. Okay, so we've got our new pieces on there. Let's flip this hydraulic pump over and see if we can get it to line up. There's one in. One out. One in again. Gonna line up all those couplers at the same time. Now it's hanging up on the dowel pin. Yep. Come on, get in your home. I think the one is lined up at the front now. This might be a bit of a chore. Pretty sure this one is lined up. The front one is the one I'm having a hard time getting lined up, and that's the one I can actually move easy. Oh, did it go? Anyways, enough of watching me struggle. It'll be an 87-minute video if you'll just watch me struggle at it. Alright, another couple of minutes of wrangling that thing around, and I got it to set down. Some gentle taps with the rubber mallet back and forth, and got it to set down on the roll pins, locator pins to make sure the pump stays located. So I've got these two bolts in and this one in. This one, I'm pretty sure this one has to stay out to get that, well, maybe it doesn't. We'll put it in. If we have to take it out again, we'll just take it out again. I thought maybe this one's got to be there for the rear hanger mount, the one that I had to repair, but whatever, we'll put it in. If we got to take it out, we do. Doesn't matter, it's one bolt. So I'm going to carefully, I'm going to snug these ones down first because that's what actually centers the pump over where it needs to go. I'll snug these down and then I'll go in a staggered pattern around and around to make sure it's going down evenly. And get it torqued up. I don't know what the spec is. I know they weren't stupid tight, they were snug, so that's what we're going to do, snug. They got lock washers on them. Just touching. There we go, just touching. Snug these ones up. And this one. Just touching. Now we'll just go alternate them. We'll go with these two first. I'm not pulling very hard, just one finger on the ratchet. Just snug. I'm going to grab my flashlight and I'm going to check to make sure it's actually sitting level, sitting flush on all the points before I start cranking stuff down and breaking a housing. If I break this housing, I'll just scrap the tractor. It's not worth fixing if I got to sink another Transaxle into it. Again, not sure what the torque spec is, but we're dealing with aluminum in here. I'm going to say that's snug enough. Snug enough. There we go. I'm gonna call that good. This lever flopping around here is supposed to, when it's in the tractor, this is slid up and there's a spring around here, and this is the release valve, the hydraulic release valve. So there's a knob on the top here. When you want to push the tractor without it running, you would push this knob and it releases the hydraulic pressure in here. So pushing the tractor by itself, just with the engine off, if you don't press this, it won't move. So okay, so I think what I'll do now is I will drag the tractor carcass back in here, get it up on a couple of stands, and we'll slide this Transaxle in there and get it hooked up and see if it moves. Roll the dice. Hopefully it'll move. Alright, Transaxle's in, the front mount is tightened, rear U-bolts need to be done, the belt is on, the pulley's on. No, I did not record it. I have to maintain some portion of dignity, and I didn't want to record me messing around with this thing, looking like a orangutan doing something unmentionable to a football. So did it by myself. It was not easy, but it's in. Just got to tighten the 2-pack U-bolts, and I think I'm gonna then attack the linkage. So I'll crawl under the tractor and start hooking up linkage and see where the task leads us next. Alright, yeah, just U-bolts down here, one on each side. Holds the axle up to the chassis. The one mount in the front stops the Transaxle from tipping forward. That was broken off, now it's fixed. So. Alright, so I've got most of the bits and pieces back in here. We've got the cooling fan back on. I've got the belt routed and put in. I've got fluid filled up. It's at the full cold level right now. I did run it a little bit, and the axles do turn backwards and forwards, so that's good. When I first fired up, there was a little bit of hydraulic whine because there was air in the system, so that worked itself out. Got quite a few bubbles and burps out of the reservoir. Yeah, I've got the battery tray put back in. Interesting with this tractor, the nuts and bolts, they don't use nylock. Everything's got a lock washer on it. Everything that needs to be locked is locked with a lock washer instead of a nylock bolt or a nylock nut. So it makes it interesting trying to get lock washers and brackets and everything all together underneath something and then start a nut. But yeah, it works. Nothing had fallen out when I started to work on it. So the axle is aligned. There's notches cast, well, not notches, but little stops cast into the axle. So the U-bolt sits exactly where it needs to sit. So that locates your axle this way in the tractor. And this bracket here, let's see if you can see there. That bracket was broken off right there. So the nose of the transaxle was actually tilted down a little bit, and that gives you it'll do weird things because it changes the length of all the linkages when it moves up and down. So it'll be doing something funky, or it'll be creeping forward when it's in neutral, and then one time, and then another time it won't. That's how these this is what I've read about them anyways. As far as creeping goes, like I just mentioned, that's adjusted with this rod here. This is the rod that controls the forward and backward activation in the transaxle, and that adjustment either lengthens or shortens this rod, and that'll control. Well, you make a fine adjustment there, and it'll prevent it from either creeping forwards or creeping backwards when you've got the control lever in neutral. So anyways, I think what we'll do next is I'm going to get some anti-seize. I'm going to put some anti-seize on the axles, both stub shafts. I'm going to slide the wheels on there, and it's a washer and a bolt that holds it together. I'll get the body put back on it and go for a test drive. I'm not going to put the mower deck in yet. There wasn't a whole lot of linkage to connect under there. I have to put the spring and all the hardware in that hydraulic bypass lever. It's just a spring underneath the tabs that holds the lever back. I'll do that with the deck off. So yeah, that's what I'll do. The brake linkage is on this side. It's a rod that goes up to the front, and then there's the control linkage that went to the other side, and that was pretty much it. Alright, like I said, anti-seize, tires, body, and we'll drop it off the stands. So there she is, moving under its own power. I drove it out there, backed it into its home. It's on hold for a bit because I got a couple of customer jobs I got to get done, and I got I think that's got an engine noise, so I'm gonna get a little deeper and investigate it. Oh geez, it's time to thin the herd a little.